So excited for Silent Night, Deadly Night. I actually was at the review a couple nights ago and I saw Black Christmas, which is kind of a yearly tradition of mine. And there was a trailer for Silent Night, Deadly Night, and they'll be playing at the review. That's very cool.
No kidding. Okay, killer. Love it.
And people, I could tell from the trailer, people are excited for it.
Ah, yeah, lovely. I mean, yeah, that's the excitement around this film has been crazy to witness. This doesn't always happen with horror movies, but I think uh not only is there, it's a bit of a legendary title, so people are excited on that basis, but all the reactions from the early screenings have been so positive. People seem very, very excited about it, which is wonderful.
And from a composer angle,
Mm.
I mean, that excites me because like I am an audio girly, but I think for most people, sound design, soundtracks, scores, these are things that they don't necessarily think of. Often it's like afterthoughts for them, or they don't even pay attention, but it's like the most captivating emotional component, is it not? Do you feel that way as an artist?
Well, it would be, it's maybe a little self-serving, but yes, I agree. Uh,
I set you up for it. You're
You did.
allowed.
You did. Honestly, this is T-ball now. You're right. I am very important. No, but it does for sure. It affects so much of the way that you feel about a scene in a movie. And a lot of my favorite films, even if I didn't know it at the time, but growing up as a kid, so many of the things that made them so exciting to me was the music. And I would always love hearing those themes afterwards. I remember, this is like such a random memory, actually, just came back to me, but I remember my mom getting a cassette from Phantom of the Opera, which she went to see uh like the original whatever tour back then, and playing it around the house, and just like that music was so cinematic and took you on such an adventure and whatever. And I think I guess from a young age I've really attached a lot of importance to the music in movies, and growing up on a lot of John Carpenter stuff especially, which just has such a tone to it and such a unique kind of attitude which has evolved over time. I do think it's very vital, and I think it's amazing how much a score can completely change the way you feel about a scene, either making it a comedy or making something that might be scary actually making it feel more melancholy and sad, or a million different variations of that. It's a powerful collaborative tool in what is the most ultimate collaborative art form, which is filmmaking to me.
Okay, you hit on so many things I have to go back to. First of all, the Phantom of the Opera thing. I think that's an origin story for a lot of us because the sound, sing for me, right? I mean, what's more iconic than that?
Yeah. Hey, what a soundtrack.
What a or a masquerade. It is
Mm.
giving everything. Like it's like you can't help but be moved.
Totally.
You also brought up John Carpenter too, which I think is a lot is an origin love of horror movies for a lot of us. And I did want to ask you about that specifically because I think of Halloween and those early shots, and you just know what you're gonna get, even though it's like they're kind of wholesome shots. So, could you talk to that about how music is like the vibe setter?
Mm. Yeah, 100%. I think that, well, specifically with Halloween, with John Carpenter stuff, I think there is a lot of that DNA in the way that we approach Silent Night, Deadly Night, to be honest with you, because with Silent Night, there are a lot of scenes which, in a similar way, it's setting you up and it feels, maybe the visual doesn't feel particularly scary in a lot of parts of the film. It feels like a more wholesome or a family oriented sort of thing. The score is what's making you feel like something is wrong in this town. So I think there's a similarity there with Halloween, like you mentioned, that before you see anybody die or anything's wrong, the score right away is telling you that something is wrong. You know, it's opening up a space. It's making you expect something. It's making you uneasy. And I think, especially in horror, I feel like that is more important than any big music jump scare. Is being able to create a mood that has an apprehension to it. I think is definitely something I've always been inspired by Carpenter's work on, for sure.
So, I'm curious as to like your process then
Hmm.
of like creating that, especially when it is for something like a film like this that already has its kind of lore to it. So I'd love to just have like an insider peek as to like what your artistic process was.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, on most films, the best way that we like to start is to start on the scripting phase. So, like, if we actually get a script and we're able to read it, and then we're able to start pouring ideas in at that point, before there's been anything filmed or any major visual decisions made, and we can go in kind of conceptually and write to the characters and the ideas at that point.
Oh, that's so cool.
We'll create kind of a broad palette. Yeah, it's honestly one of the most fun parts of the process because it's although there's still a goal to hit, is the story, there are the characters. You're writing in a sort of very free way, and you get a chance to collaborate with the director before they've filmed anything. So it's a good way for the musical identity of the film to sort of inform the visual identity, ideally, or at least to be a part of the DNA of the film from an early point. So that was what we did with Silent Night, Deadly Night. We started writing, I don't know, maybe almost a year before they went to camera on this one. So we had a lot of ideas and a lot of that stuff. So by the time Mike had shot the film and was editing it, he was using our original sketch pieces as a lot of his temp music in the film. So there was kind of already this like agreement on what the vibe was going to be. Step of the process that was interesting and isn't always the case with horror is that Mike's tastes are very, very minimal. And so a lot of creating that apprehension we're talking about was a kind of less is more approach. There were sections in this film that we had scored and really kind of like gone to town on a little bit and had a lot going on. And Mike's notes were almost always like, let's do less. Like, just, take out those instruments, take out this. I love these sounds. What if it's only those? And I think a lot of times the notes are the opposite in horror. A lot of times it's like, go bigger, scare me more. We need it to sound, bigger and scarier or whatever. With this movie, so much of it was pulling out and not being afraid to have these stretches of silence in between notes to really allow the audience to kind of invite them into the world and wonder what's going to happen next. I think that's kind of a powerful emotion to some, and that was very much led by Mike.
That's beautiful. I think very exciting to hear. I think the script phase element is something that I would have never thought of, and but just makes so much sense that you say it. I wonder if that's always the case, or if that comes with being so well known in your craft and people know you're a master at it, so they're more they want your
Well,
take a little bit.
believe me, it's gone every different way. Like, that's our ideal, and it does happen more often than not these days, thankfully, because we also are fortunate to have long-term relationships and collaborations with directors who we love. So there's a lot of trust there, and we'll be able to read something at an early stage and already start thinking about ideas even before the script is finished. Like that's such a privilege, and that's not something you get to do right when you start out so much. But counterpoint to that, we've definitely also had projects come to us that was like something went wrong in the post-production process. Now we need you guys to come in. The movie is completely done other than the music, and you got 3 weeks. Save it. And that's a whole different kind of challenge. So
Right.
there's no meditating. There's no, sitting outside with your coffee and wondering what you feel. It's just like 5 alarm fire every day for 3 weeks, uh, which can create a different kind of focus on a film. You don't have any time to get distracted or wander. You have to make some strong choices and then just go for it and deliver. But more and more these days, that is the exception to the rule, thankfully. So yeah, writing to the page and being able to write what we call sketchbooks, which are just kind of larger vision pieces that explore melodies and character themes and tones. It's like one of the most fun parts of the job. Easy.
Uh, for people who are less inclined to it,
Mm.
where those people who I was mentioning who they do see it more as a kind of like when they're watching films or maybe in their own creation, it doesn't jump out at them. How would you suggest people like meditate on audio a little bit and like bring the focus back to that
Yeah, that's a
in
great
their
question.
practice?
You're talking about from an audience perspective or from a filmmaker perspective?
I think I was thinking audience perspective. But I
Well,
wonder
yeah,
if that's connected at all.
I mean, they can be. I think part of creating with anything, there's sort of two different minds to this, and I think both are valid. One of which is this kind of like Rick Rubin mentality of like the audience should be of no concern to you while you're creating. You need to make something that feels true to you and moves you. The audience will follow, and I think there's validity to that in some ways. But also on that smaller level, what you're doing is you are still making it for the audience. You're just making it for the audience of one. You're
Right.
still
Right.
experiencing your own stuff and you're trying to imagine, how it would feel to hear it for the first time. Um, Being able to bring yourself into a place where you're focusing on the audio more and thinking about it more I think obviously working in this and creating in this world has forced us to do that. But even before that, just listening to I want to call it slow music. Sort of the opposite of fast food. It's slow food, you know?
Love that.
This is it, as opposed to not there's anything wrong with pop or rock music or anything, but if you're thinking cinematically and you want to listen to things that are instrumental and take some patience and allow you to just kind of exist in a space, I think one of the most useful techniques to enjoying that music to me is to listen to it while walking. So you go explore your neighborhood, go on a nice little nature walk, have a coffee, breathe in the air, see the sights, and listen to something that is evocative and takes patience because you don't have to sit there and wait for the next note and get frustrated because it's not like hitting the dopamine or something. It becomes a soundtrack to what you're doing, and I think will allow you to think about music in a different way.
That tip is better than I could have ever imagined. Yeah, there's nothing like putting on a little jazz and going downtown and watching people get on the subway or
Jazz is perfect for that too. Jazz feels like city music when like stuff's going on and you're walking around, you're sort of noticing, but like oh, I wonder what that guy's story is. You know, like that feels like jazz to me. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And slow music, like that's fantastic as well. Because we do get, you know, used to getting certain things from sounds and music. And so if you can kind of train yourself to, yeah, not expect maybe to know the lyrics or, you haven't heard the song before, I think it's really important. And yeah, to do it while you're walking. People are not listening to podcasts as much. So I like this idea of ambient sound instead or soundtracks or just kind of slower music. It
Yeah.
actually Oh, sorry. Did you have something to add?
No, not at all. No, I
No.
was just going to agree with you, and I do listen to honestly a lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks as well because it feels like an ear break because I spend all day every day doing the music thing. But when I do listen to music, I really do prefer that the slow, evocative stuff. I listen to some of the ambient works from Aphex Twin or Burial or something like that. For me, are so nice for that. Or a composer that I came across not long ago, a guy named Eric Whitaker who composes for choral arrangements mainly. There's a song called What David Said, and it's like a 17-minute choral arrangement that to me is just one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life. And describing it that way, I don't know, that probably sounds very pretentious. Like, yeah, it's 17 minutes, only choir, and you got to listen to that. It's not a hard listen. It is a listen that will move you to tears. It's just incredible. It just sounds like something that came from above. It doesn't sound like something that humans made to me. So I love discovering that stuff, and that's not the kind of thing you could discover in a soundbite. It takes a little bit of patience and the willingness to engage with it.
Notes taken. Thank you.
Yes. Hey, if anybody from this discovers that song, honestly, like I suggested it to my father-in-law not long ago, and he told me that he listened to it at one point and he was in tears afterwards. And I'm like, I get it. I 100% get it. Like that is, it'll do that to you.
And circling back, I do feel I mean, and things are different for different people, but that emotional resonance, I mean, ooh, it can change a person. So thank you for your beautiful work, and thank you for your time today. I really enjoyed chatting with you. I do wonder. I'll throw in one more question now that we're talking about. I've been thinking lately a lot about like trending audio,
Mm.
and because I've been hearing like the new one is the You Probably Will Be for Life mashup with the the 10 years have gone by, and I'm telling my younger self this. How do you feel about trending audio and maybe like AI audio snippets, kind of this digital takeover a little bit of the sounds that we're hearing?
Yeah, I mean the AI discussion is something that's I think of this question as two sort of very separate things. Because the AI generation thing, I don't know if I can weigh in on that much because I think I'm a bit of a luddite with it. I feel allergic to the concept, and maybe that will age very poorly. But whenever somebody asks me about if I'm excited about AI's application to music, I kind of feel like if I asked you what your favorite food was and you said hamburgers, and I said, great news, we invented a technology and you'll never have to eat a hamburger again. There's something
Right.
to do it for you. That's sort of how it feels to me.
I agree.
Maybe that's a bit of being, I mean, I'm showing my age in that, but yeah, the joy of creation is something that I hold very dear. Um, Now, when it comes to trending audio stuff, though, I actually find it to be very interesting. And I do use TikTok and I do use Instagram, and I am going through these clips. What's interesting to me uh, is that it creates some of this dissonance that you and I are talking about, where music can play against picture, or music can create a different mood than what you might expect. It could create tension, it could create sadness, it could create whatever. Because I'll see different trending audio, and it's probably my algorithm. A lot of it's this like moody stuff that I end up getting served, but then it could be put over, a hyper edit of a family vacation, or it could be put over a weird AI visual dark fantasy thing, or it could be put into stuff. And I find, especially at night, going to bed and flipping through these, it can create this weird, like melancholy, like we're on the forefront of a very strange technology we don't understand kind of feel. And I think you could argue that people are kind of experimenting with scoring in a soft way, or at
Mm.
least with music supervising. They're placing music over something, and trying to do it in a way that other people haven't done and would be ear catching or eye catching. So I think that's cool. It's a cool thing to experiment with.
Yeah, I love that take, and it's kind of like democratizing it. And also, it is kind of cool to hear, again, aging myself now, uh, things from 20 years ago just kind of repackaged in a completely
Yeah.
different way, and it's really interesting to see what clicks and what doesn't click.
Oh, 100%. I mean, one of the biggest revivals that I'm so happy about that I've seen Gen Z and Gen Alpha discovering is the Deftones. Apparently, everybody loves the Deftones again, which is like one of my favorite bands growing up. I love those guys. And there's so many Deftones clips now, or Deftones audio cues that I've seen put to TikTok stuff. And I'm like, but it's obviously very modern imagery. It's not what the Deftones would have done in the 90s or the early 2000s. That to me is so sick. Like, I'm like, amazing. Please, yes, like reinvent this, make it your own. And that to me is very exciting.
I totally agree. The kids are proving yet again they know what's up.
They will be all right.
They will. They are all right. Well, thank you so much, Martin. That was a lovely chat. I
Yeah.
really appreciate all your time.
Thank you for having me on. That was great. Thanks.
Is there anything else you wanted to say that I didn't get to ask?
Well, I guess really just the plug that Silent Night Deadly Night is out on December 12th. I don't know if when this will come out, if it'll be out before then or not, but December 12th. And the nice thing about this one, which doesn't always happen, is the day and date on the 12th as well is the soundtrack from Lakeshore Records. So it'll be the full score is going to be out in the world as well. So you'll be able to watch it and then listen afterwards and become afraid in your own home.
Oh, that is so fantastic. And I'm jumping on the merch, right to soundtrack, right to CDs and vinyls, as this Spotify conversation is coming out. That's what we're learning, right? You got to support the artists directly. So thank you for mentioning that. I will make sure this comes out by the 12th, and I will be seeing Silent Night, Deadly Night like first thing at the review at my favorite theater. So you
I think
find
you're
it
going
in
to
a
have a good
theater.
time. You're going to
Yeah,
have a
I
great
can't wait.
As much as it's a horror movie, it's also a movie that is going to make you stand up out of your seat and yell in like a let's go kind of way. It's a great time. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, like I said, people were already reacting that way to the trailer. And so if anybody watching hasn't seen the trailer yet and you're a trailer person, you got to check that out. And yeah, December 12th.
Love it. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Martin. I was not recording. Oh, yes, I was. Yes,